Sponsored by the Writers Guild Foundation, the WGA West, and Variety, Beyond Word is an annual event honoring WGA Award-nominated screenwriters. Hosted by Judd Apatow, this year's panel included Simon Beaufoy, Lance Black, Jonathan Nolan, Tom McCarthy, and Eric Roth, who spoke to us prior to the event about their writing and the secrets to their success. What's the one thing that makes you and your brother's writing collaboration a success?
Argument, I think, more than anything else. By the time it gets on the page, we've argued about it enough that we've strengthened it. Or at the very least, you've exposed yourself to all of the flaws of an idea.
How has your acting experience informed your writing?
I think primarily it just means I normally approach the material through character. Maybe a lot of writers do that, I don't know, but I think before I even think of story or plot or structure, I'm thinking of character.
How do you balance research and writing what you know?
Well, this phrase, write what you know, is something that I've been taught from the minute I went to film school. And I'm never a big believer in that, really. I think that writing is a big journey, a big exploration into the unknown, if it's going to have that energy. So I love writing about things that I don't know. However, you have to do that with a great deal of respect for your material and the people you're making a film about. And as a white, middle-class English boy going to the slums of Mumbai, you are duty-bound to do a tremendous amount of research to get it right. And I was always very concerned not to make a film about what I wanted and what I thought the slums of Mumbai were like. So I just went back to my documentary roots, which is where I was trained as a documentary director, and wandered around the slums of Juhu in Mumbai, talking to people, listening to people, hearing what the gossip was, hearing what the stories were, and asking them, if you had a camera, what would you make a film about? And they would tell me all this amazing stuff. They'd say, gangsters are huge. And so I'd scribble it all down, and I sort of ended up making the film from the inside out. Not the foreigner saying I want the film to be about this, but what the people in the slums thought was interesting and what they were all gossiping about at the tea stalls. And that's a way to get a certain amount of authenticity. Well, as much as you can as an outsider,
My least favorite piece of advice for a writer is write what you know. My advice would be write whatever you want. There's no limitation on it. And the thing I've gotten most offended by or most upset by are people telling you or other writers telling you that you can't write for a particular voice, that you're not able to imagine that voice. And a lot of the films that we're talking about and celebrating tonight, I think, are a real argument against that. Making the argument that you can write for whoever you want and try to imagine the inner life of whatever character you choose. I think that's what being a writer is.
I don't think you can avoid not writing what you know. In other words, I wouldn't advise writing too much what you know. In other words, you should hide it. And as it just comes out. In other words, I don't think necessarily the best stories are the stories from your life, but you will incorporate what went on in your life within your stories.
No, I think you should write what you know. I mean, if you don't know it yet, maybe you can learn it. There's a lot that I don't know yet that I hope to experience and be able to write. But so far, I've done that. I went from Big Love, which is all about Mormonism, which is where I grew up in the Mormon church, to to the Castro, to gay politics and gay rights, which is also a big part of who I am. So I do think that it's definitely easier to attach your passion to something you already know, but I think you can also get to know something and become just as passionate about it.
Do you think you should write what you know, or are you not a proponent of that?
I'm not a proponent of anything because there are plenty of people who write science fiction, and how do you know that? You got to make that up. So I can't do that. That's why I write about goofy Jewish guys. That is the limit of my world and my experience. I could never write a movie about an Eskimo who knows magic. And I won't do that. So, but I'm glad there are people who do that because I'll go.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given as a writer, or the best piece of advice you'd have for a young writer?
Oh, well, the best advice I've had lately as a writer is from Gus. And Gus, I don't know. Every time he reads a draft, all he really comes back with is, how about we make it shorter? How about we make it shorter? And and at first I was just like, oh, is he just trying to torture me? Like, what is this? And it's true. It's really like distill it, and get it down to the core of what it is you're trying to say.
Yeah, probably the best piece of advice I was given by a documentary maker who saw me walk in one day wearing headphones. This was the day of those big CD Walkmans. And he said, if you want to be a good filmmaker, take those headphones off. And what he meant was, keep your ears open, keep listening, because that's where the good stories are. And I found that tremendously good advice.
I usually tell people just the advice that people have given me in the past. So Gary Shandling is the main mentor I've had, and he always talked about writing from your core and writing from a very honest, personal place. And when in doubt, just go to the truth. And when I watch anything, I think, are these people really going there, or are they just dilly-dallying around? Like, every once in a while you see something and you think, that guy or that woman, they're not messing around. They're actually revealing something. And so I always encourage them to do that. Even in big comedy, that's the reason why things work, because the motivations all make sense and come from a personal place of the writer.
It's so basic, but it's just keep writing. It's just keep writing. And it's always the simple lessons that are hardest, I think, and that is the hardest, because there's a lot of reasons to doubt yourself and to get frustrated with the industry and to just to stop. Life gets in the way, and I think the best thing you can do is set up a schedule for writing and stick to it.